No fame, just a fortune.
Very important for people to know the real history, because not to know the real history, you must know world history and European history, and you must dismiss the black and white game. If you don't, you're already in the trap, you're in the matrix. One of the things I recognize that a lot of people fail to recognize is law, what it is not, what brings it about. And so I think with a lot of us, this can help. And I'm going to go to this point first, then we can deal with the matters that are important or that's before us. All civilization operates on contract. There's no such thing as civilization operating without contract. Contract is an agreement, a treaty, constitution, verbal, oral, however. They're covenants. They're all forms of contract. The usurpation of the United States Republic, which the Moors helped set up. People unconsciously keep equating the U.S. democracy and the United States Republic, which is the first weakness. I want to make it very, 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 very clear. The U.S. democracy has no law. The United States Republic of Morocco has the Constitution. They cut Morocco off. That is what the slavery really is. Do you understand? So before you can really understand how to deal with the law, you must understand what the secret societies did. You have to have, put it this way, if you don't have any knowledge as to what is the body of information or the foundation principle body of information that the secret societies across the world have, you can't understand how and why governments are run. Do you understand? It's not left to emotions. And we have a tendency when waking up to still mix emotions with realities. This is where we get caught in the matrix. And so you come back to the foundation principles. And so if you don't understand the political evolution on how the Europeans established government here, then you can't understand law, nor can you understand your history, nor can you understand their history, nor can you understand how we interchange. It is because of the Inquisitionists and when they started the artificiality of race, that's part of the trap. If you get caught into that, you're caught in the trap. So one of the things that you have to do is to begin to dissolve in your mind the fictions and then begin to deal with the realities. The reality is that this is one broad and expanded human family that's broken down into broader families that are called nationalities. Once you took that game when the sociologists started creating the race game in order to start to divide the people so they could rob them, and you take that as an information base and you go from that on any point, whether you're dealing with law, governments, etc., you're already wrong. Meaning that for law to exist, if I make a claim on you or against you, if I make a claim on you or against you, what you should be arguing to me is not necessarily the substance of the matter. If I say to you, you know, we're really upset with you because you owe $5.50 and 2 bags of popcorn. Say, well, that's kind of high. And you know, I don't feel as though that's fair. When what you should be arguing is not that. But number one, where did I derive my authority? And enter it into the record. That's number one. Because before I can claim a right or an authority over you, the only way that your birthright can be given to me in any sovereign capacity, if you're in agreement with me through your parents or through some organized system government prior to me, that which I'm by bloodline obligated to and didn't dissolve, or your birthright is your own. Do you understand? You're the law. Do you understand? And if I impose that on you, then I'm maintaining slavery, which is a violation of civilization. So you have to understand right? Then you have Now, in issues of controversy, that's the process. So the first thing that comes before any court, any lawful court, now you got colorable courts, and you can have, where you have organized criminals come together and then deny process, which is common. And one of the weaknesses that people have is that they assume that people that hold government seats are not criminals. That's your first problem. Now, the Inquisitionists' job was, and what their mission was, and it came even before we made this agreement, to undermine the Republic. This is the reason why the plenipotentiaries with the Moors warned the people, once we finally decide to make peace and stop this silly wars that we're going over and over again, that you now have a republic if you're willing to keep it. And now you have a whole bunch of grown people in grown bodies with the mentality of little boys and girls that keep calling this a democracy, and as soon as they say that, they lose their political birthright. As soon as you agree to that without a challenge, you've given up your political birthright and you've agreed to a fraudulent jurisdiction. Now, so what that makes you is booty and prize to organized criminals who will tell you to your face that this is a democracy and you haven't challenged it. No different if they call you Negro, black, and colored and you didn't challenge it. It's assumed. If it's assumed and you don't object, it stands. Do you understand? And so even like when like children say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. All right, that's cliche to most people. However, it means more than what they think it means. Do you understand? Now, that's those who pledge allegiance to the peace between the Moors and the European nations in here and establish this government of amity and peace and to do commerce in this Moorish empire. Do you understand? What they did is overthrew it. And they took the nationality and birthrights away from the Moors, and different Moors were in government. They told them step down or die. Do you understand? And they instituted in 1779 the Negro and the black crap retroactively into the history documents. They started burning documents. They started hiding documents, transferring books into different areas of the countries and into secret societies. And they started making up new records. And in the new records, they started listing the Moors as blacks, Negroes, according to the territories. And they take the children and send the children to the Northeast Territory, they send them to the Southeast Territory. They take them from the Southeast Territory, send them to the Northwest Territory, and vice versa across the Nile River, which you call the Mississippi. And they've been playing the game, they even do it in military. Do you understand? Now, the concept is that people are wrongly under the concept that the European sons established this with the peregrinos that you call pilgrims, which means wanderers, that they established this government out of some moral principles and they established the United States. That's a lie. The United States already existed. Do you understand? The United States is a federation of the Moabite tribes that they fakedly call Indians, and we're not Indians. And I ain't Indian. I'm indigenous to the land, but I ain't Indian. One of the traps that a lot of the Shemnites fell into, because you have a lot of sellout. A lot of different tribes that sold out, but that didn't constitute an agreement with the nation. They fake it in history that it does. This is the reason why they had to murder so many of them. Do you understand? So one of the problems with us is because we've been mixed, is that our concepts are wrong and we keep thinking that we're different people when we're really not. We're just expanded of the same expanded family. And the base language here on this side is part Aramaic, Hebrew, and what you call Algonquian, that they call Indian different languages, and what they call Moorish Latin, that they keep calling falsely Spanish, which it is not. It's Latin, Moorish Latin, multiple dialects. And so one of the deals with the Inquisitionists, when they merged their kingdoms and defeated the Moors and started conquering the West, is one of the commitments of the White Camellia, the Klan, and the Knights of Columbus was to wipe us out of history. Do you understand? This is the reason why you cannot go and find the linear history. But that's also why you have all these secret societies that consequently and curiously keep wearing the Moorish fez. And you never figured it out. All right, let's look at this. You see here, the Falkland Islands, huh?
Yes.
You see the tip of Argentina, Chile, huh?
Yes.
It's Argentina, Chile, right?
Yes.
You see up here, Alaska,
Yes.
huh? You see up here, part of Greenland up here, just up here, just below Greenland,
Yes.
or next to it, huh?
Yes.
Latitudinally, coming down here. You see these islands here?
Yes.
You see down here one of our old sacred places, Easter Island?
Yes.
That's America. Central, north, south. Tell me who's the American president. Oh, he's the president of Brazil? Because that's the United States. You know that's the United States of America, don't you? Because it is. You know El Salvador is the United States of America. Did you know that?
No.
Mexico is the United States of America. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
That's because they cheated you in school. They did a deliberate dumb down so that you wouldn't understand that United States is a generic term. That's just like me saying woman or girl. So if I say woman or girl, am I addressing anyone specifically? You can answer, but you don't have to, do you? But if you assume that you're the only woman in here, you'll say that loosely, would never even give it a second thought, wouldn't you? Then all they need to do is create a fraudulent jurisdiction that's assumed and you don't challenge it, then they take you in it, and they have no authority whatsoever. There's no such thing as the American president. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the American flag. It doesn't exist. There is a such thing as American presidents and American flags that come from here on up, and all across all these islands. So when somebody comes before you and starts talking law and starts talking like he has jurisdiction over matter, the first thing you're supposed to ask him, oh, I have no problem. Where's your nationality card? That's for one. Then your certificate, delegation of authority order, that proves the jurisdiction of whichever America you're talking about and whatever constitutional government you are aligned with. Then we can start talking the subject matter. Maybe, if I feel like it. Because you haven't even proven you haven't even proven who you are. Where's your $5 from that bill I sent you? And you start saying, oh man, I didn't get my second job, and you start talking the subject. You start talking the jurisdiction. You give the jurisdiction because you haven't recognized that I didn't even establish it. Means that no one has authority in civilization or in government unless verified by the sovereignty of the people. Governments are established to protect, do you understand? And preserve and secure the existing, pre-existing rights of people. That's called inalienable rights and is more relative to what birthrights are. Do you understand, sister? I know not immediately, but I started off with you being involved because you need to recognize, and that is us plurally, that when somebody starts throwing that American loose to you, and United States court, and the United States this, they can be talking about this, they can talk about this, and if they don't have any allegiance to that Constitution, they haven't set it up, they didn't prove anything to you. They can have you in some pirate court, and you don't even know it. And you agreed to it because you allowed the jurisdiction because you didn't challenge who they are in the first place. But if you're a citizen, and you can only be a citizen, then you can be a natural citizen of the land, and you can be a political citizen of an organized government. Both of which, and more to the second than the first, requires proof. That's for starters. So one of the first things that we're going to do to start correcting this thing is anyone who claims to have any capacity, authoritative capacity in government, they don't move on anything with you without you questioning them right on down the line, starting off with their nationality card, their DOAO, delegation of authority order, republic, or agency where their authority can be verified. on the public record. And if it can't be, or if they're not forthcoming with it, or they don't have it in their possession, you have no problem with that. That person at that time has no authority. With an issue of controversy is the status. That means, who are you? Oh, you're Russian? Oh, no problem with that. Where's your documents that say it? Not your mouth. That's how you challenge jurisdiction. You don't say, I challenge the jurisdiction. You challenge the jurisdiction understanding these principles. You get the point? So, if you say you have authority, I'm not going to argue about with that, because nationality is where the birthright is. And for the law to be governing you, then if you're Russian, you're not saying that you're what? Asiatic? Russia is a part of Asia, am I correct? Yes. Below it is India, right? Yes. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right, so where's your nationality card? So how are you going to be talking the law of a land that gives authority, and you haven't even proven who you are? Because this is a jurisdiction of diversity.
Why do you have to prove who you are? You have God-given birthright.
Can I go to Russia? Can I go to Misraim? Can I go to Saudi Arabia? Can I go to different parts of the world, many of where I'll be accepted as one of the people, unless by accent or by culture, they recognize that I come from another area? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And start demanding issues of law, and I haven't proven who I am? The first issue is status. Who am I? So now we've established who we are. When you present yourself, that's really status, although they've corrupted it. So you present yourself. Now the reason why, quote unquote, as it has been in United States processes of law, why Negroes, blacks, and coloreds could not represent themselves in court, because Negro, black, and color are corporate fictions. And if the person agreed that they are that, then, they have a right to make that contract. See, because government's not there to interfere with your right to make contract. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you claim to be something that someone else coined to name their chattel, and you agree to that, logically you come under Christian Black Code 1724, and it's no problem because you agree to that. Because there's no such people listed on this planet anywhere in the human family. Does not exist. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So, but there are laws that regulate such chattel or such things. Can't call it human because it's not part of the human family. Never made a law, contract, constitution, so therefore you cannot bring it before a free national court and argue issues of law, because it doesn't apply to it. Now, because a person agrees to be it, that's on them. If they're ignorant of their birthright, whether somebody took it from them or whether they agreed to it, both the effect is the same. Now, of course, you can get maybe the family that enslaved their family line to come up and speak for them, because they can't speak for themselves, because they're barred from law. They're in a position of no judicio standi, have no standing in law. Of course, if they don't know that, and then somebody gives them, on this other hand, some documents that make statements about law that really sound, this is really deep, and he's really got to do this, he's got to give me a sandwich according to this, and you start arguing all that, oh yeah, I got this, just wait till I tell him he's got to give me a cheese sandwich, oh, and you talking big stuff and they still take you to some fraud jurisdiction you ain't figured out because you agreed to be Negro, black, and colored, because they have no standing in law. This is the reason why they want to hide the Moorish connection, because the United States Republic came out of the dissolution of the Moroccan government here, United States of Morocco. Do you understand? That's why the United States of America here in the central part has no national name. Like here you got the United States of Mexico, you got the United States of Brazil, right? You got the United States of El Salvador, let's see, El Salvador, there's a couple more that are United States. So you have a lot of United States of America. This is the reason why they'll just use the name or the word America. And if you never stop and think, you never recognize that that's not attached to anything here. They'll claim jurisdiction here, and they'll claim jurisdiction here. And they'll claim jurisdiction here, and they'll claim jurisdiction here. And they'll claim jurisdiction here. And they'll claim everywhere.
But you know what they do?
They bring the law of the seas because they don't have no jurisdiction. They don't have no law. And they bring it on the land, and you're not debating it because you are assuming that they have jurisdiction, and they're assuming the jurisdiction that you give them.
So in other words, what under the United States, where all that yellow is, it's all under the admiralty law.
It's exactly correct. They're pirates. You have to start breaking these things down in their component parts and then reassembling them and understanding what you're dealing with. Moors gave up their birthright when they started accepting Negro, black, colored, and following after the idol gods of Europe that they knew little of, gave up their culture, gave up their birthright, fell into servitude, been transacting business in alien names for quite a few generations, thinking that they're secured. The people must be very clear. Don't assume because they have the seats that they're the law and you're trying to ask them for recognition. Understand that you're the law and you're telling them what the position is. They know that the public is dumb and they're using color of law to usurp the law and stand on that. In other words, they're holding a colorable posture knowingly, but are confident that the masses of the public don't know and are using public policy.
That's right.
Do you understand?
Yep.
To operate on. And what we need to always be thinking about is that that's where they are. And they haven't even changed the game because they haven't recognized a need to. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because everything in civilization operates by covenant, by a contract. This is the reason why in any proper issues of adjudication they ask you, do you understand? Meaning, do you agree? Because they can't proceed because you haven't bond. You haven't given them leave. So they say, you really got that eyeglass case in your pocket? Do you understand? You say, yeah. All right, now they got jurisdiction. What are you supposed to say? No, I don't know. Explain to me. Well, no, you're being difficult. And you know that's an eyeglass case in your pocket. You say, what? You said it. I didn't say it. See, long as that's going on, he can't move. Anything he does, it can be overturned, or he's actually violating his jurisdiction if he proceeds. But if you don't know that, he can trick you into walking into that false jurisdiction that you're arguing about in the first place. And then he proceeds, and he goes past status, he accepts jurisdiction, and the improper venue can be the same thing as lacking jurisdiction. He got that assumed, and he starts adjudicating. That's why you don't talk the matter. You don't talk the matter. It is none to discuss. We haven't dealt with this. Here, 1, 2, 3. Hey, what are you talking about? What's in the box of the Cheerio box? You haven't proved that you're a party, that you have any authority even to discuss this issue. Do not look at the Spanish, quote unquote, Spanish-American War and the Punic Wars as different. Look at them as a continuation of the same wars over many generations. Do not look at any difference between the Battle of Tours near Poitiers and the Christian Crusades. Don't look at them as any different. Do not look at the French Revolution and the quote-unquote, generically coded American Revolution as different, because they're not. And they're all related. And so is your final fall to slavery and your branding as Negro, blacks, and colored. You're tied to that whole series of mess, and this is the world's longest revolution. And here you are, and we're trying to fix it. Do you understand? Once you understand that true part of the history, and you understand that you're already here, once the Asiatics start allowing the usurpers to name them and to designate the qualifications of who they are, they actually went into a false jurisdiction. No different when you agree to be Negro, black, and colored. So therefore, a lot of the sellout Shemnites amongst us, that's the Moors mixed with Chinese, that told people that they're the indigenous people, we're the ancient ones. They're our children, mixed with Mongolians, that you call Chinese, and Europeans, who are also our sons. You must understand that and get rid of the fiction. Then you can get back to the matriarchal principle of nature herself, because you don't mess with Mother Nature, because she ain't going to play with you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The earth is a womb. The universe is a womb. The mind is a womb. Once we understand these fundamental nature principles, then you understand in the Declaration of Independence, when the reference was made to nature's laws and nature's God and the inalienable rights having nothing to do with government, Are you understanding? Are you following me? Huh? So you must go back to the natal principle, or the nationality, which is the foundation of civilization. Do you understand? Then contracts or agreements or covenants are made amongst men to govern their association, that you've been calling unions of anything on this planet. Now let's look at something and keep this in mind. What is important for the Inquisitionists to tamper with the information in order to distract you, in order to dumb the world down, because they could not conquer the world. You can't defeat the Moors. They had to remove the Moors from the land, move them from your mind, because they couldn't defeat you physically, because there's only one people on the planet, that's us. And everybody else is derivative. But yet we're all the same people. And once you start accepting that racism stuff, hatred, divisionism, all that crap entered, and they played you. And they've been playing you even now. Stick with the law, and they still with divine, moral, and ethical principles. Because that's civilization. Do you understand? Outside of that, you got anarchy, and that's not in anybody's interest. Because Mother Nature don't play. And she does not seek to preserve anything or anyone that does not seek to preserve themselves. And since we're tied together, the harm that you do to another, you do to yourself. It's just a matter of time. And that's the truth on how what you call ethical and moral principles are derived, because that's built in nature. It has nothing to do with your belief systems. Because once they started arguing the nationality, it's only two people here. That's the Moors, descendants of the ancient Moabites, and the Mexicans, also descendants of the ancient Moabites. Get the point? Huh? And everybody else is either European or from Asia, but they're not aboriginal or indigenous to this land. So where do they derive their authority to govern here? There has to be some kind of covenant, don't they? Then they say, well, King George and guys and Charles is going to give us grant. They ain't grant crap. They ain't grant something in England. They ain't grant nothing here. Because we had government here before they even had government. All right? And so they calling us Indians there too, because all on the islands, they find all these statues with feathers on, particularly on Easter Island, and they're thousands upon thousands of years old. They went to Cuba, and they got Moorish fort there. Puerto Rico, what they call San Juan, Moorish forts there. In Brazil, Moorish forts there. And they had to bury all this history. Do you understand? Because they were never able to come into the Western Hemisphere until they merged their kingdoms and defeated the Moors. So they had to wipe the Moors out of history because we ruled the planet. The 7 seas. Do you understand? So the Moorish Empire became the British Empire. Once you understand that, you understand why the sun neither rises or sets on the British Empire, because it's really the Moorish Empire. Because we ruled the planet. And when they defeated the Moors, they inherited this, so to speak. Article 6 of that Constitution is so vital for you to keep in mind. Because we had government here before that Constitution was adopted. Do you understand? Now, what the deal is, if they don't honor our Republican form of government, we don't have a problem with that. At that time, they not only don't have any jurisdiction in law, they don't even have any right to be here. They're supposed to be deported. But under color of arms and under force of arms, they can stay here and use color of law to enforce color of law on the land, which is what they've been doing. You get the point? That's what you need to know about this whole game. And you go from there in your concepts. Do you understand? You're brought in before the justice that would be delegated authority by your constitution government through the people. He doesn't just have that authority. It is delegated. You understand? And he must be certified. Without certification, he's just some clerk or some magistrate claiming to be something that he's not, which they very often do. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know that. And they get away with it because you don't challenge them. So don't let them start talking about, give me your lunch money and how, well, sis, you got that copper thing right here and you owe me $5 and you don't challenge it. You say, who are you? Where do you derive your authority? Don't tell me. I want to see it in writing. Other than that, we don't need no conversation. Now, can I go or are you going to try to injure me? You trying to steal my liberty? Are you threatening to hurt me? Are you threatening to take something from me? Put it in the record and sign your name to it. And there's witnesses here. Say it before them. Here's my nationality card. Where's yours? Do you have one? If you don't, there's nothing for you to say to me because I know you don't have any authority in this government. Can't. Well, I'm American. Well, go back to Brazil. No, I'm American here. You American here? What's here? America starts from Alaska down to Chile. What jurisdiction are you talking about? How you going to claim jurisdiction on my land? Because I'm indigenous. I'm aboriginal to the land. Part and parcel of this said government. And politically, I'm a citizen of the United States Republic, conditioned by that Constitution. But I do have law that precedes that. Now, where's yours? Now, if you're claiming any authority by our Constitution, then you recognize this Republican form of government. Oh, we got democracy. Oh, well, go ahead back to England, wherever you came from, because you sure ain't got no authority here. What you talking about? But see, we're talking about this matter before us because you got this eyeglass case. You ain't identified yourself yet? You're talking authority, you don't have any identification. Well, I got a driver's license. Oh, you got some agreement with some private corporation, some late private corporation that has a charter? That's not government. What, is that part of the branches of government?
You can't create an obligation on an instrument created in fraud. A thinking person would recognize that. A non-thinking person would go for it. That means you can't take a plastic candy apple and make it real just because somebody's willing to bite it and sign some papers to get a bite. It's not going to get real. If it's created in color, it remains in color. Which means no matter how frustrating it gets, if you're assigned to keep the plants, don't go put no water in them plants over there. Because they're plastic, which means they're colored. So when it deals with people, if you have people that say they're people of color, does a state or human rights apply to them? Use your intelligence, not emotion. So when people of color are exterminated for trying to claim to be somebody that they're not, like them other people during the Second World War that was doing that, will the world come to their aid? Are they in dishonor? What's the requirement for them claiming any estate? Like all other humans, mustn't they honor their mothers and their fathers? If they have not honored their mothers and fathers, can they invoke the common law? What is the basis of the common law? Your capacity to invoke, practice, demonstrate your association with the ancient traditions and customs of your ancient mothers and fathers from time immemorial. That's what constitutes the common law that trumps the Roman law and all other forms of civil law. And that's where the Europeans have gotten themselves in trouble and getting to the point of perfecting these operations, and the magistrates tell them, you can't use that Constitution as a defense. You're not a party to it. The Inquisition Revenue Service under the Vatican, who controls the corporation and the estate, which is why the Pope did the letter. Now remember, the Pope already told you who he really is, foreign dignitary representing the United States Corporation Company. Forget what the masses think. Because they think that black's an identity, people of color's identity. Minorities, they're what? They're Christian property. They're chattels. They're tokens. They have no authority, never did. What did the Pope also say in his letter, which we go back to? He said, to suppress commercial mercenary forces on the land. So all these commercial venues and these commercial processes that they've been putting on the people will be suppressed. And he says, any damage to the people or the property, to true Americans, or on the land, he makes that distinction. He says the International Monetary Fund and the Internal Revenue Services will be what? Their finance will be confiscated for reparations. It's the Pope. Now, point of it is, they forgot their histories, so therefore they forgot their obligation to humanity. Nevertheless, the world ain't got to deal with that. And when they start cooking these people of color. When they get tired of dying, they're going to hurry up, just like them other fakers, and they're going to hurry up and get a nationality, aren't they? Because only they are the heirs of the estate. But since they don't want to be themselves, which they have a right not to be themselves, they also have a right to be cooked. Because they're not going to take up space. Now, September 1950, the House Committee on Un-American Affairs, this is the truth of the Barristers Association, they're actually there to undermine the Republic. And as you can understand now, the Pope has extinguished all their licenses of both the American bar and the British bar. Why? Because he owns them. You understand? And the fact that your so-called black leaders don't deal with this stuff. Now, see, the National Lawyers Guild was organized in 1936 by a caucus of Communist Party, United States of America, lawyers assisted by the International Labor Defense and American Agency of Comintern, and that's the Communist International. National Lawyers Guild remains an active affiliate of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, the demon system that was set up in '61, you know, with the corporate operations. And this is where they've been doing all this colorful legislation under the U.S. democracy order, which was set up for the dark priesthood, and that's what's been governing you. And so, yes, and this is where the Pope is telling you, you know, about the Republic. That means, so you must be in honor with those loyal principles. And if it's not in your heart and your mind, logically, you're not going to speak the language. And as soon as you start talking about black, racism stuff, automatically you're under the codes. And don't think they're going to sit there and have long discussions with you once you start coming that way. What they're going to do is remove you. You keep on talking, they're going to disappear you. And if somebody else jumps up and talks about, you can't do that to my boy, they're going to disappear them. Because when due to Histofan, martial law, everyone's expendable. And if you're not of a nation, you have no international law protections. And anybody talk about colors and everything will be gassed immediately or shot immediately, put in a grinder, and put in them disposal things that burn at temperatures that will melt stone. And then they put them barriers, and you find them all along the highways. They're called trash to steam plants. They're for pulverizing bone. They're not just for burning paper. All the corporate entities are members of the Roman Curia. So when you deal with any corporation, you're dealing with Sears, Macy's, banks, you know, any of these agencies whatsoever, any of these franchises, they're all members of the Roman Curia. So when you look at the Pope's letter, you understand what he's saying when he's talking about all of their licenses being extinguished. People who know that the Pope owns them all is not confused. People who don't know the real politics are confused. You understand? You're given this information so that you're no longer naive. You're not supposed to continue to act naive once you've been exposed to this information. This is why they're doing the House Joint Resolution 2847. What are they doing? Taking people's accounts. They're taking people's finance. What's 2847? Bail in, not bail out. So if you understand that, you understand why. See, the point that I'm making is that these fundamental things, when you know the fundamentals of the politics, none of these things confuse you. They only confuse people that don't understand the politics. You're not supposed to be in that crowd.
They're showing you this mountain.
You're given this information so that you can be pulled out, so when they start cooking them, you're not out there stupidly marching with them. Screw the slaves that don't know they're slaves. But they also don't know they're getting ready to be cooked. This is where the real problem is. They think they're going to continue in their ignorance and be allowed to breathe. It's become a burden. And so in what you call nationalization, international nationalization of nation states, such persons are expendable. They will be eliminated. This is why the Pope is telling you they're foreign dignitaries representing the United States. Corporation, company, know why. I know why. We know why. Problem is our people don't know why. And they sit around playing these marching Negro games, don't know they're getting ready to get cooked. And we're trying our best to warn them. And they're dealing with their belief systems and don't know that's mind control. Anyway, so we're going to congressional records, right? Volume 33, page H 1303. So Tropicon speaking on the floor of the House, right? Now, we could go into the introduction of the Treaty of Peace, the Treaty of Verona, etc. also. Now, Mr. Speaker, we're here now, Chapter 11, members of Congress are official trustees. So you're talking on the state, trust, right? Presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity. He didn't say country, he said entity. In world history, the U.S. government. So, bankrupt entity in world history, U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act of March 9, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session June 5, 1933. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers and department, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. We know it's defunct, we know it don't exist, but these people keep going to these people, so the Pope's telling them those encumbrances don't apply. And he's the Don. And people keep running after these
Pretty much on your own, you go there.
apples. Here, bite this apple, and this I will give thee. Just curse your God. The same old game, and they keep falling for it. So the Pope himself is coming out and telling you the BS. There ain't no white sovereign Christian, none of this stuff. He tells you this whole fraud is based on what? African Americans. He said nobody else. So who can only be the proper beneficiaries and holder in due course?
The Moors. The indigenous.
It's exactly that.
Moors.
Claim anything else, you're off the platform. Do you understand? This is the track. But let's go a little further. Let's look at this part. The receivers of the U.S. bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. All United States officers, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status. He's telling you they're frauds. This is the Florida Congress.
1993.
Now, in name only, under emergency war powers, with the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy. They ain't talking it, but they already know. When we assume they don't know, we're naive. This is why I keep saying, you're the one that didn't know about your birthright, not them. Your family members are the ones that don't know about their birthright, not that European. Well, I talked to them and they didn't know, and I gave them this and they read that and they act like this. No, you are naive for even making a statement.
They know.
You understand what I'm saying? It's sort of like we just don't want to accept that we've been played.
Yeah.
You ain't special, you ain't spiritual, you've been had. Accept it. Grow up. And get real and get to work. And honor your mothers and your fathers that your days may be longer upon the earth land, and you can have standing to begin to even make a claim on your estate. But you better be in your proper person. You ain't holding in due course of nothing until you honor your mothers and your fathers. And every man and every woman and even the children must confess their own. They're not excused either. But the children didn't know. They're going to cook them too. And we keep on playing around. See, but this was about to happen. You got to start cooking these people because they just don't believe it.
Like they said, when it gets ugly.
So the Pope is telling them, and he's trying to save his butt. He's trying to get on the right side of history. You understand? He even tells you what? Their coupons as money and currency. Currency is not money. So what happens when these people keep calling currency money? Money substitute, redeemable currency must pay, promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver money. Isn't that Article 1, Section 10?
Yep. Article 1, Section
Isn't
10.
the abrogation of the gold clause at the root of the coup of 61?
Yep. At 19.
So when you call anything but gold and silver coin money, you've committed a fraud and you've given them a mandate over your estate. Then you're talking about I'm holding in due course, and I'll file a financial statement, and I got a cold excuse. No, you ain't got crap. You're running your mouth. And this is where the Europeans who are starting to tell the truth through their sovereignty groups because the middle class has been dissolved. That's why the administrators tell them you can't use that Constitution as a defense because you're not a party to it. What is he talking about? He's talking about the Knights of Columbus, Ku Klux Klan oath, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Illinois, 1854 to 1863. They took on the title of white people that don't damn belong to them, and they gave up their birthright. And now they're trying to enforce that treaty. If you can't prove that you're of Moorish blood, or if you can't prove to be descendants of Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Madison, and persons who have clear, identifiable allegiance to the Republic and the treaty in force that the Pope talked about, you have no claim. Because that belongs to the Moors. Well, guess what? All of their estates are now being revenued to them without encumbrance. Ain't the Pope telling you that? Didn't he tell you them bonds that back to U.S. debt is what? Against African Americans. Don't say nobody else does it. So all these people trying to claim these bonds and the QC numbers and the birth certificate that are bonds and everything, if you're not Moorish American, you have no claim. Because the treaty, and he said treaties enforced, didn't he? So the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the Moors and the United States of America, which George Washington talked about, right? Yeah. So if you're not Moroccan, you're not Al-Moroccan. And if you're not Al-Moroccan, you ain't American. You have no claim. Federal Reserve notes. Right. Private commercial paper. Right. Checks. Securities. You cannot foreclose on a security. Right. They've been converting these checks and the private commercial paper and foreclosing on them, separating the mortgage and the promissory note, which already voided the claim, and you can't foreclose on a security. What do people start arguing? Payments and money and all this stuff. They're incompetent when they should be arguing the state. Now, if they do argue a state, and they are listed as Negro, black, or colored, or white, and they didn't clarify it, you understand? They also have no claim. That's why people, when they go to these arguments with the IRS or with foreclosure, that's why 99% of them lose. Because they're arguing the wrong argument. And they keep calling things what they're not. They keep making up synonyms. Not that that's not correct. You don't need to make up synonyms. There's private commercial paper, which is what Federal Reserve notes are. Checks are securities. Why do you keep calling them other things? Like, it ain't real money. Stop the stupid stuff. They're securities, private commercial paper. Say what they are, because that's how you're going to beat them. That's what it is. Stop calling what it ain't. Because when you make an argument in high courts or in world courts, you better say what it is. You start making up other stuff that we can synonymously agree that it is, you're incompetent. This is what we need to understand. This is why you see me constantly correcting people, not that it's not comprehended what you're trying to say. It is designated private commercial paper. You can say fiat, private commercial paper. Call it anything else, you've just given them a spurious argument to twist it on you. And then when you do, you're lost. You gave them the brick and they smacked you upside the head. Look at it that way. But we can't get our egos out of our mouths, you know, trying to be cute or clever, or you know, how do you say, trying to be cute or clever. Call it what it is, because when you're getting in these estate arguments, they're not playing with you. Right. They're operating on unum sanctum operations. They eliminate people. Say what it is, and be yourself when you do it. And if you ain't gonna be yourself, stay out of them venues. Because when you go in them venues talking trash, lights on, you're on stage. And everybody's actors. Don't let them close the curtain on you. You know what I mean? So this is where people get the UCC processes from, the financial statements, etc. Here. There's a fundamental difference between quote-unquote paying a debt and discharging the debt. To pay a debt, you must pay with value or substance, i.e. gold, silver, barter, or commodity. With Federal Reserve notes, you can only discharge debt. You cannot pay a debt with a debt currency system. You cannot service a debt with a currency that has no backing in value or substance. No contract in common law, and we talked earlier about how common law is invoked and how it's not invoked, right, is valid unless It involves an exchange of good and valuable consideration. Unpayable debt transfers power and control to the sovereign power structure that has no interest in money, law, equity, or justice because they have so much ill-gotten wealth already. In other words, through the fraud instruments, they've claimed your estate. Any instrument you give them, you be thinking is money. They know it's not. It's private commercial paper. That's why you see the Europeans light cigars with 100 notes, and poor people are impressed. Man, you know, when he's rich, he light his cigar with a $100 bill and blah, 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 blah. He already knows printing presses in the back room. You know, stop. You know, we're the only ones out to lunch. The mystery is to keep us thinking it's money. Right. Keep us saying it's money. Right. So we don't recognize that they are bond bookkeeping instruments against the closed account of our estate. Duh. So the Pope got to tell you, which is why I read the Pope's letter first. Because they just don't believe us. Anyway, hold on. And so look here. Federal Reserve System is based on the canon law. You look up the common law, and it is the only law that trumps the Roman law, canon law. You know the canon law, that's where the straw man was built on, with the, Bureau of Refugees and Abandoned Lands, which is renamed the Freedmen's Bureau. It closed Freedmen's Bureau, so the people didn't get their 40 acres and a mule, nor the 3630 agreement, nor patriation between the Rocky Mountains and the Alleghenies. They murdered Lincoln, and they created the straw man corpse, the dead, under the 14th Amendment, registered these people as Christian property in corporate state of Delaware, and that's the bond system. Coup of 1861 solidified by the Act of Congress. 1871 is the bureaucratization of slavery, which the Pope talked about 150 years ago. That corruption, and the African Americans were used as the chattel bond behind U.S. government debt. So how is it that some Christian white sovereign or any other people got claim on these bonds? It is you. That's why Noble Drawley did what he did in 1913.
The fact is, the stats is cooked like the books. We more than pimps, prostitutes, dealers, and crooks. Take a look, same faces on the temple walls. They gave you mad sciences to build pyramids. Today they building more so you can perpetrate like you ball, buying out bars, foreign cars, Audemars, fronting like a star. But you are by birth, and that's the God's honest. No ass, just stardust, and the words of promise that you make when you come through like the comets. To live a good natural life in correspondence with the laws of the mother. Love your sister and your brother. Watch them close, but have love for the other. The friend of me turn enemies, man, we suffer when we keep perpetuating the lies. You discover the truth. Yeah. Shout out to all my truth speakers and truth seekers.